I want to get your reaction to the Supreme Court today essentially leaving in place the ban against the Obama administration from going forward with the president's immigration plan.
Well, I haven't seen it. I just heard about it 2 seconds ago, so I do want to look at it. I want to study it. We'll take a look at it. What was the vote?
Well, essentially it's a tie, so
Yeah.
it leaves in
So
place,
is it a
it leaves
tie?
in place the previous ruling.
I had a feeling that might happen, right, on this one. I'm going to look at both opinions, and I'll give it to you the next time.
Let me ask you this. If you're, as president, if any of your immigration policies came before the Supreme Court, would it be your wish that the court's only Latina, Sonia Sotomayor, recuse herself?
No, it wouldn't. I'd want people that can vote on anywhere. I want people without conflict, and you have to assume they don't have a conflict.
I ask, obviously, in the context of your objections to Judge Curiel.
Look, I have a case that I'm going to win. I have thousands and thousands of people that they love it, they love the course, and we're going to win the case, and that's all there is to it.
Your objections about Judge Curiel, were they a distraction? Do you want to walk him back? Do you want to
I don't
apologize?
want to walk anything. I want to just say we're going to win the case. It's going to be after the election. Trump University going to be very successful. We're going to win the case. That's all there is to it. I think it's going to be an easy victory because we have thousands of people that have approved the case. So we're going to win the case.
You delivered a speech yesterday. You went hard after Hillary Clinton. She says your speech was full of conspiracy theories and that you attacked her because you had no answers on substance. What's your reaction?
I attacked her because she has been terrible at what she does, whether it's Libya, whether it's the great migration that you see, which is largely her and certainly her and Obama. She's done a horrible job. You look all over Europe, it's a disaster what's taken place. In this country, she wants to bring in thousands of more people than President Obama wants to bring in. I attack her because she's done a horrible job. And she's done a horrible job for a long period of time. And she'll be a terrible president. So the attack is an attack really on the fact that she will be a terrible president.
You made some very bold claims about her that didn't stand up when we put it.
Well, you don't know if they stand up. What claim are you talking about?
Well, let's talk about your claim that she was asleep during the Benghazi attack, that Ambassador
Were you there?
Stevens was
Were you there?
asking.
Were you with her?
She has testified before the committee that she wasn't asleep. It happened during the daytime. There's no evidence that
it
she
happened
was asleep.
all during the day, and it was going on for a long period of time.
But I guess what I'm asking,
It was going on for a long period of time. And she was asleep at the wheel. Whether she was sleeping or not, who knows if she was sleeping. She might have been sleeping. She might have been sleeping. Why? Because she put out a tweet. Somebody said she put out a tweet, therefore she wasn't sleeping. Nobody else could put out a tweet. So
you stand
I don't
by
know.
what you
I can
said.
tell you this, whether she was sleeping or not, and she might have been sleeping, it was a disaster. It was a horrific disaster, and it was on her watch.
You also made the claim that her personal email server had been hacked, probably by foreign governments, suggesting that.
Well,
as
you don't
president,
know that it hasn't
well,
been.
wait a minute, but suggesting that she would be compromised as president. What evidence do you have?
Well, first of all, she shouldn't have had a personal server, okay? She shouldn't have had it. It's illegal. What she did is illegal. Now, she might not be judged that way because, we have a rigged system. But what she did is illegal. She shouldn't have had a personal server.
But is there any evidence that it was hacked other than routine phishing attacks?
I think I read that and I heard it, and somebody
Where?
that also gave me that information, I will report back to you. I'll give it to you.
But you
I
said it
realize,
with such certainty yesterday.
I don't know if certainty. Probably she was hacked. You can be hacked and not know it, but she probably was hacked. The fact is, she should not have it. She should not have had a personal server. She had a personal server. Everyone's saying, how's that possible? And why did she have it? She has it probably because she does so many dishonest things that she doesn't want to go through government. She should have had the government server. She has a personal server, and people were shocked to find out.
Do you plan to debate her?
Of course I do. I
Three
look forward
times?
to it.
You commit to 3 debates?
I think it's 3 debates, yeah.
And you plan on doing them?
Sure.
Are you preparing for the debates now?
I think my whole life has been in preparation, frankly. But yeah, sure, I'll be preparing like everybody else.
A lot has been reported about your May fundraising numbers. I know you said you've raised a lot of money since then. Also, questions have been raised about the lack of a strong organization, nationwide organization, and it's led some to wonder, we know you don't like to lose, but do you really want to win?
Yeah, I do. I know how to win. I know how to win. When I ran in the primaries, I spent less money than anybody else of the, people that were really in there. I spent less money than anybody else, and I won in landslides. I mean, I won almost 14 million votes, more votes than anybody has ever gotten. Reagan, Nixon, Dwight D. Eisenhower. Nobody got so many votes. I got almost 14 million votes.
Did it surprise you?
No, 37 states. And I had the smallest staff. I had a small staff. I spent the least money. That's a good thing. That's not a bad thing.
That was then.
No,
Yeah.
that's then. But the world doesn't change that much. That was then. Now, we just started our fundraising. And we reported for a very small period of time, because, the reports come out later. And I think people are going to be shocked when they see the kind of money we've raised. Now, I'm raising that money for the Republican Party. Frankly, I'd rather just keep self-funding. I mean, to me, it's easier. But I feel an obligation to raise money for the Republican Party. For me, it's easier just to self-fund. The primaries, I spent about $55 million, and I just did it myself, of my money. Put it up, easy, nice, no difficulties, and I'd rather just keep doing that. But I also feel an obligation because the RNC has been terrific. Reince Priebus has been terrific. And they do have a staff that they've accumulated over years in different states that to put together quickly would be, a pretty burdensome task. It will be a lot of wasted effort because there's some very good people.
You've been critical of Hillary Clinton for taking Wall Street money. Will you take Wall Street money?
I'm taking very little. I'll tell you where we're doing very well.
But you will take some?
I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see who comes up. I mean,
But you won't take
I
a
have
pledge
turned
not
down,
to take
let
Wall
me
Street.
tell you differently. I have turned down millions of dollars from people who I don't really want to give me money, okay? She's taken tremendous amounts of Wall Street money. Now, as I told you, I've already put up about $55 million, okay? And you do it in a certain way, and you do it all through the way you're supposed to. But I put up my own money. Now they want me to raise money for the party in order to take care of this big, mechanism that they have. And I'm doing that, and I think we're doing very well. I think I will tell you, we announced a report because we had to, but that was at the very end of a month or something, and there was we had hardly started. Now we've started raising money, and I've gone to different events. And again, a lot of money is being raised for the Republican Party. I think you'll be really surprised when you see the next report.
And your organization?
I have a great organization.
I mean, do you feel you're at any disadvantage right now on just those practical terms of money and
So
organization?
here's the story. I can always use my own money. And I may do that. I haven't decided, but I may do that. But I always said I was going to do the primaries.
As loans or that you would pay back? Or
Well, you always do it as loans, and then you terminate the loan. Like, for instance, I terminated the loan. I did the first 55 million or 50 million, whatever it was. I did that in the form of a loan. You always do that.
But you wouldn't give those loans, or would you?
I already forgave it. In other words, I terminated it. So I put the money in, and for whatever reason, they want it in the form of loans, or the lawyers say always do it in the form of loan. And then what you do is you terminate. I've already terminated it. In fact, I was going to terminate it in 2 or 3 weeks. I just terminated it. I said, what's the purpose of keeping it open? That's a legal thing, not having nothing to do with me. So I've already terminated all of that. So I've put in, whether it's 50 or 55, somewhere in that vicinity. I would like to keep doing that, frankly. But I do feel it's important to raise money for the RNC, for the Republican Party. And we've raised a lot. Now, when you see the numbers coming in, and when you see the people, because they're tired of being ripped off as a country in trade by all of these other countries, China and Japan and Mexico, and everybody is ripping us big league, okay, in every way. We don't know what, we have people, Lester, that we don't know what we're doing as a country. We have the most incompetent people that you've ever seen making trade deals with China. China laughs at us. We have one of the biggest banks in the world, the biggest bank in the world, from China, right in this building. People at the highest levels of China cannot believe what they get away with, the stupidity of our country. People are tired of it, and it won't happen anymore. It's not going to happen anymore.
You made an appeal yesterday in your speech to Bernie Sanders voters to come over to Team Trump. You're asking people who support a democratic socialist to come over to you, a symbol of capitalism.
That's true. You know why?
Who just told me that he may or may not take Wall Street money.
Okay, let me just tell you why. Because I'm no fan of Bernie, and I think his ideas are, many of them are not so good. But he does have one point that she doesn't understand, and that most politicians don't understand, that we are being ripped off on trade. That's a massive thing. And he understands that.
Let me ask you about some comments you made about the president recently with reference to the tragedy in Orlando. You seem to suggest that he has sympathy for terrorists. Did I hear that? Is that was that? Do I have that right? That was the essence of what
You
you
don't
were
have
trying
that
to
right
say.
at all. I mean,
Okay.
I'm
Well,
sure he'd like to see that end.
well, help me understand what you
No,
were
the
saying about
Washington
the president.
Post, which is a totally crooked newspaper as far as I'm concerned, the Washington Post put an article, a headline up on a story that was so bad. They actually made it sound like he was in cahoots with the maniac who did the shooting.
What is it you're
And by the
saying?
way, let me explain something. They took that down. I don't even call them anymore because they're so out of it. You know, they're just, in my opinion, they're basically a protector for Amazon, so that Amazon doesn't pay the taxes that they should be paying. They should be paying taxes. They're putting all the retailers out of business. They should be paying taxes. The government would take in a lot of money. But that's what I think about the Washington Post. The Washington Post does very inaccurate stories about me. They put in a headline like, essentially like Obama was in cahoots with the guy that did the shooting. They had such a backlash from that headline that they took it down a number of hours later.
Let me give you a chance to set the record as straight as you see
ahead.
it. What is it you're saying about the president and his perception of the terrorist threat to this country?
There's no perception. I'm sure he'd like to see it stopped. I have no doubt about that. Of course he wants to. He's the president. Does he want to have this kind of terror in the United States? With that being said, I think he's very weak on terror. I think he's very weak. I think that people are coming in he's allowing people to come in. He doesn't know who the people are. He doesn't know really where they come from. There's no documents. There's no papers. And law enforcement, and you've had them on your show, law enforcement is saying they're really hard to vet because they don't have papers, they don't have documents. We're bringing in thousands and thousands and thousands of people, and we have no idea who they are. And there will be problems.
You said yesterday you said you want immigrants, I'm paraphrasing, who love this country.
I do. I want people that love this country. I want people that love this country. I want to bring people in that love this country, that want to come to this country for good reasons. Now, people are coming in from the migration, from Syria, from wherever, and you're going to have problems. You're going to have big problems. Here's the story. One person did this damage over the weekend. One person. This was one maniac with horrible thoughts who is radical Islamic terrorism. And the president doesn't mention it. He still doesn't want to say it. And I only shamed Hillary into saying it. You know, Hillary would never have said it if I didn't shame her.
His point is it's three words that...
It's very important words. Because unless you understand the problem, unless you're willing to say what the problem is, Lester, you're never going to ever solve the problem. He doesn't want to say it still. He gave a whole speech on why he shouldn't have to use those words. She said, after I shamed her, and that's all it is. I mean, she would never have said it. Number one, she's petrified of him because she doesn't want to go to jail, okay? So she's going to do whatever he says. I mean, take a look at her. She'll do whatever he says. So she didn't want to say it, really, I think, because of him. But then she started talking about like she would be willing. I don't think she said it yet, but she would be willing to say it. But she'll say it soon. Because I've shamed her into saying it. And at some point she'll say it. She said she will say it. She hasn't said it yet. She will soon. But if I didn't do what I do, you know, say what I, and if I wasn't me or my type of personality, who, by the way, has the best temperament ever for being president,